I haven't even straightened it this morning. Look at me.
I know, me too.
Um, so whatever. No
Yeah,
one knows me in the US. It'll be fine.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so no, Pablo's behaviour is definitely improved, and I feel like I it's probably not appropriate for how to deal with a horse, but I had to sort him out. I think there was definitely a bit of a. I was always way too soft, and he kind of just sussed it on me. And he, like you said before, he always, if there's a 1% of doubt, they just aha, gotcha kind of thing. So I had to really just bump on his lead rope just a few times. And he
Yep.
went, oh, okay, I won't do that.
Yeah.
And he's fine.
Yeah.
So
And that was him. It sounds backwards because we're always trying to be nice. We're always trying to give them the benefit
yeah,
of a doubt. But it's just like I see people with kids that, a relationship is not always the dreamy rainbow and lollipop part. There's,
yeah,
some discipline involved and
hmm
boundaries. And if we think of
yeah,
it as for the horse to say, hey, don't do that. Like you don't get to just invade my space, or you can be in a bad mood, but you don't get to take it out on me. And
yeah,
I go, just like
yeah,
any other family member, you go, okay, you can
yeah,
rant,
yeah,
but rant over
yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I've been way too soft on him, and I've made in my head I've made allowances for his behavior, thinking he's always in pain, and oh no, I won't touch him because he's telling me he's in pain, whereas he's kind of just telling me nah, bugger off type scenario some of the time.
well, what happens
Maybe there
is,
is a bit of pain,
but even
but
if there is pain, horses, like I saw this a lot at rescue organizations, that the feeling sorry energy that people are
mm,
projecting at horses that they feel sorry for is a weak
yeah,
energy that horses see as dangerous to their survival. It doesn't
yeah,
help them to look at them and feel sorry for them because they never look
yeah,
at themselves. They never feel sorry for themselves. They just get on with things. And
yeah.
so,
So that's exactly what's happened, I think.
yeah. And when you treat him like a normal, healthy horse, that's what he's asking you to do because that's
Yeah,
how horses
yeah.
always see themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Can we pause, sorry, for one
Uh-huh.
second? My other dog's at the door and he's just not going to stop barking until I let
Yes.
him in. He's going back.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, so horses that tend to be in a fight defensive strategy, that could be as mild as pinning his ears at you or as extreme as charging you and biting you, but it's sort of towards the
Yeah,
person. And
yeah,
it always tells you they're insecure underneath that. They're testing you because they're insecure. And if we don't say, hey, knock it off, with the intention of helping, not the intention of
yeah,
punishing, then
yes,
they sort of like scratch at that feel
yeah,
sorry energy. And they just sort of like
yes.
get worse and
It's
worse
been,
until we do something about it.
yeah, yeah. And he had me trained very well.
Yeah.
So the minute he would do one slight little snarky look, I'd go, oh, okay, okay, I won't. So he just had me like that. So
He's like, not today, lady. Yeah, not
not
today.
today. Don't touch me. Yeah.
Good. So that's
So anyway,
based.
we've gotten over that. So I've just been quite firm but fair. I mean, I try and get in the mindset. I go in with the energy that everything's going to be hunky dory. He's going to be fine. So I'm not giving off the energy that I'm cautious because otherwise he'll pick up on that too. So I
Yes.
go in the energy that he's just going to be all fine. And then the minute he kind of shows, to begin with, it was the minute he showed any like snarly or his nostrils or his ears, I'd
Hmm.
kind of correct him a bit. And now it's if that escalates a little bit. So sometimes if he just goes a bit,
Yeah.
I'm not liking this much, but he doesn't do anything, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like, your kid can mope and have a frown, but still has to take the garbage out. It's like, that's your job. That's what you're going to do. You're going to take
Yeah.
the garbage out. And if you don't feel good about it, too bad, so sad. Take the garbage out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, yes, we've that's been a big improvement.
Good. Good. So we get
I
to
mean,
look at
we're not
the,
100% there yet. We're still we're still getting there. As an example, so he's obviously then thought, okay, the minute I put the halter on, that potentially could lead to him being told off. So now it's a bit of a, unless we're going out to work, like he loves going out to do the work in the arena, so he's there waiting. But if he knows that it's not that time, and if it's just to get your coat on or whatever, he then, say I've got him in the little yard, he'll pin his ears and then he'll walk away from me, and I'll approach him slowly, and he's like pinning and like acting all snarly, and he'll like snap a little bit at the head collar. So I just wait. So we're still getting over that little bit. It's not perfect, but yeah, improvements.
No, it sounds like you've got it well in hand. Like you're not intimidated by it and you know what to do. So
Yeah,
it's just going to be 10,000 repetitions before he fully believes you.
yeah.
Because just
Yeah,
when you
lucky
think
I'm patient.
yeah, just when you think you've got it, they'll throw out another little pop quiz and go,
Yeah.
are you sure you have it?
Yeah,
Okay,
love
so
it.
let's look at the video. I've got it pulled up.
So there's just one this week with
Oh,
for 20 minutes. So I
hang on
did
a
10
second.
minutes either side.
Oh, good. And the little bit that I saw, I forgot to optimize the video. Hang on. Otherwise, it plays really slow. There we go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're walking slow enough, so if you slow it down any further, I'll be
I know, right? But he looks like he's into it. So I'm really happy to hear you say that when it's work time,
yeah.
he's pretty keen to get caught and go do his long range bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he also knows that it comes with a little munch on the grass because I'm a bit of a softie. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I don't know.
No,
But,
it's fine.
yeah, bit of
Why not?
bribery. Never hurt anyone. Yeah. Dressed
Well,
like a right dad. Please excuse my attire.
oh, it's been the end of a long day. We've had all this rain all of a sudden too, and um it's been sort of
Yeah.
humid and wet and hot, and I'm like, oh, hat head. Oh well.
Oh.
This is good.
Mm.
So he's really
Yeah, I'll
concentrating.
mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing is more stiffness in the hind legs, which is interesting because two things. One, he's more forward. This is the most forward I have seen this horse. And
Mm-hmm.
two, you can sort of see the stiffness of the hindquarters now, which with that
Mm-hmm.
lengthened neck and in the forward motion, he's starting to actually use his hindquarters and his back, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what I noticed, so the last two times I've done it, he's been quite, I'll say forward like this. For him, this is forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
His back legs are actually, so normally he does this little shuffle where his back legs probably step about a third of the way under his body. But throughout this, not all the time, but you'll see through this session, he actually takes bigger steps with his back legs. That's the first time I've actually, or second time I've really seen that happen. So I don't know
Yeah.
what that means. Is it good, bad, or indifferent? Don't know, but it's different.
It's very good because it's the forward placement of the hoof. We call that engaged when the hind hooves come closer to the center. But that's sort of the end
Yeah,
result of a big chain of events. But what I'm
yeah.
seeing in his forwardness is it used to be he would barely step forward and his leg would be behind him most of the time. So
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
stride was sort of a quick setting down the hoof forward and then a long push back. And when
Yes.
he's going forward, when he's not distracted by the grass,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it takes a while for him to get into the swing of it. It's like it's very strong.
so if we sort of look at the swing of the leg, I agree. I think the hind leg is coming more forward, and the forward placement of the hoof looks more equal to the backward swing of the hoof. So, in other words,
Mm-hmm.
it's swinging more like a pendulum from the hip joint equally, forward and back.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what we're seeing in the stiffness is just sort of the hip joint, which is way up here, and the stifle
Mm-hmm.
and the hock. It's I not very technical of me, but I sort of call it knocking the rust off the joints. Like I'm sure they're a little bit
Yeah,
arthritic. They haven't been
I
really
think so,
fully
yeah.
functioning. But the only way to improve the swing of the leg and the forward placement of the hoof that you're talking about is if you
Mm-hmm.
stabilize the pelvic bones and the back.
Yeah, yeah.
So if the midline and the back and the hindquarters are not stable, then they lock the legs and sort of brace through the legs for stability. So with
Yeah.
this nice long neck in motion and sort of seeing the change in the leg swing, and although it's stiff and it's a bit slow, but this is huge for Pablo. This is
Mm.
just a massive improvement for him, and he really is starting to feel the benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've only really been able to do probably twice a week, at the most three. Just the weather, and I work full time, so I'm a bit time poor. But
Mhm.
yeah, so even with that little amount.
And that may be appropriate for him because when they're developing core muscles, like you also don't want to fatigue him and give him a
Mm.
reason to not want to go forward again. Like it's almost
Yeah.
better at this point if he's looking forward to the work and he's just sort of very gently rhythmic, very
Mm.
gently starting to equalize the forward back phases of the hind legs, the stability
Mm-hmm.
through his midline, the stability through his pelvis and back. That just looks hugely improved.
Mm.
And even though,
Yeah.
okay, the grass is a bit of a distraction, other than the grass, he's really keeping a nice steady cadence with a long
Mm-hmm.
neck. And
Yeah.
that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
So you can also try when he dives for grass, you can give him a whack to go forward rather than trying to pull his head up.
Yeah.
If
Oh, he
if
kind of sometimes, I suppose I could tap him with the whip I've
mm,
got there. Because if I tap him with the rope, he just ignores it. It's like, "Meh, what's
yeah.
that going to do to me?" He's not very sensitive of, yeah, doesn't startle him or anything. It's like, oh, I don't care
Yeah,
about
but
that.
maybe tap him on the butt with the whip when he goes to eat
Yeah.
grass, and
Yeah.
it'll startle him a little bit to go forward, and he'll pick his head up out of the grass as he kind of moves forward.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So you know how Stitch's back, when I'm working with Stitch, his back legs do go under his belly, but his is more because he's rotating so much. His
Hmm.
go right under, like so deep. Is Pablo's kind of rotating like that, or is his a little bit more correct, even though it's really stiff?
His looks more correct. So
Okay.
remember way back when we looked at him on the lunge line and first started with hand walking, I sort of pointed out how much visible movement there was through his back and his pelvis.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm seeing change. If we train our
Yeah.
eye to look at the top line, because we're all
Yeah.
trained in the horse business to look at the neck and the feet. But I go,
Mm.
the truth of balance is actually if we develop our eye for the top line. So a couple of things.
Okay.
When the mane from the withers all the way to the pole, you see how the mane is becoming completely straight when he lengthens his neck. There's no
Yeah.
little curl, there's no little holding, there's no dropping of the pole. That
Yeah.
straightness from the withers to the pole is an
Mm.
actual full release of it's not just the neck muscles, it's a change of muscle use all the way back to the tail. So
Okay. Yeah.
when he was all wiggly and dropping his back and not wanting to go forward, the neck, the back muscles, and the top of the hindquarter, when the back goes down, the muscles have to shorten into what's called concentric contraction. So they
Mm-hmm.
tighten, but they shorten and tighten, just like showing off our big
Yeah.
guns, right?
Yeah.
That that change through his neck is the transition from shortening muscle use to just length, which is it's a restoration of suppleness to the neck and the back
Mm-hmm.
and the hindquarter muscles. He's not lifting yet or very much. So the muscles are just kind of in a releasing tension phase. And
Yeah.
that's what was causing him to halt so frequently before, is just
Mm-hmm.
because the reason the neck lengthens like that and all the way back to the tail is because the skull, the spine, rib cage, and pelvis, with the long reins, you've been able to reduce the movement of those bones and gain more stability through the axial skeleton. They hit
Mm-hmm.
a certain
Yep.
critical point when the skeleton becomes more stable. That's what releases that shortening excessive contraction of the muscles. So
Okay.
if
Mm.
the spine, let's just say the spine and pelvis, if that's not stable skeletally, then the muscles have to tighten. And that's why he was uncomfortable moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And even with his
Yep.
muscles tight, we could see the movement of the spine and pelvis. So that's a weakened state, and that's why he didn't want to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hand walking didn't really resolve that problem for him as well as the long reins. And I think that's why he took to the long reins so fast, was because what you're feeling in each rein is every time that skeleton shifts, the muscle use changes and the weight shifts. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
feel him change the pressure in the reins, right? So as you kept a contact, you give him a little bit of rein resistance, you equalize the left and right reins. That's what's reducing all that excess mobility through the skeleton. And at the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
rate, all those tight muscles just start to let go. And when he would,
Yeah.
up to this video, almost every time he would release his neck, he would lose the rhythm and like almost halt or halt.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing in this video is that he's keeping a steady cadence. Now we're about 10 minutes into it, and he's just slowed down the rhythm a little bit. But the first 10 minutes, he was going with this long neck, which tells you the midline is getting stable. And he wasn't losing the rhythm, which tells you he's using
Mm.
his hindquarters more to control his movement and control his
Yep.
body weight. And so
Mm-hmm.
we see the stiffness because they're a bit rusty. They're just starting to work again.
Yep. Yep.
And but that equalness of swing that you noticed, he's stepping under himself a little better, and the steadiness of the cadence. That's more important than anything else, that sort of steady rhythm or steady
Mm.
tempo,
Mm-hmm.
because that's telling you he can push himself forward, but he can also stabilize himself, right? So as he pushes, before, if he pushed, he just got so unstable, he didn't want to push anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is very, very good. And every once in a while,
Yeah.
he elevates the neck, but I wouldn't expect him. I'm happy to see him moving in a consistent long and low. That is a massive transitional phase for his balance.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. He really needed this work, didn't he? Would have, like, without this, how like was there any other way of rehabbing horses like this, or is it really just the long reins?
The long reins is a methodology that I use. It's not, lots of people rehab and don't use the long reins or don't use the long reins the way I do. I just
Mm-hmm.
found over the years this is the gentlest and most
Mm.
effective way to get changes.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I do
just wondering,
too.
like, what on earth do other people do if they don't long rein? Like, because he definitely wasn't ready to be ridden, was he? Or could a very experienced person ride him and kind of get the same results?
Maybe the riding, maybe. I don't know. It would be, I
Mm.
have just like the long reins. I wouldn't guess that riding him would be the easiest way to get his balance back, but
No, no,
horses
I
make
wouldn't think so.
they make a liar out of me all the time. So
Okay.
like
Yeah.
we thought hand walking would be easier than long reins, which technically it is. but he preferred
Yeah.
the long reins. And
Yeah.
maybe he would
Yeah.
prefer to be ridden, but it just totally depends on how he would respond to that, to know if it's
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. Yeah. And not that I'm planning to do that. I was just curious. I'm like, yeah, what
But
other?
if you were confident riding him and you had been riding him even in this condition, we would look at riding as an avenue because you never know. And some
Yeah.
horses progress faster when we give them more support, and some horses
Yeah.
progress faster when you give them less support. That's very unique to each horse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even though
Yeah. Well, he hasn't.
we can look at the body and sort of guess, but horses
Yeah.
really surprise me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So he hasn't been ridden, I think, in about 5 years. So I was kind of going to want to wait, keen
Yeah,
to wait until he's 100% body wise ready and
yeah.
then go forth. Yeah.
And you said he was a little bit of a problem under saddle before when he was ridden.
He's not like extreme, but he was trying to tell me that he was in pain.
He didn't want to go
So
forward like the ground, or did he blow
didn't want to
up
go
or
forward, kind of threatened to buck a little bit, but he's not over the top. He's
Mhm.
not, I've never felt it, like, he didn't really feel explosive, but I could feel it like it was brewing a little bit.
Got it.
But that was at the time when he had a high suspensory ligament injury and God knows what else going on. So,
Yeah.
maybe, and he, as we know, he's very opinionated or vocal when he's got a thought about something. So it's hard to know you know, how
No,
bad it was. Don't know.
that's the one thing I love about Appaloosas. They make their thoughts and opinions very clear. They don't hold
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. If he's not happy, you'll know about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and
He
he
just
looked,
stops there because he knows that's where I take the lead rope off. He's like, is that it?
yeah, this is really good. And this is the other direction. Do you find going left or right is one easier, one
About the
harder?
same, really.
Okay.
Yeah, no, about the same. Yeah. We always get a little bit sticky around that corner because he thinks that, he'd like to
That,
stop now and go out and eat some grass. That's probably what that's all about.
yeah.
Got a bit off
No,
track
I'm
there.
just so happy to see because what we're looking for, which sounds funny, is we're looking for an absence of seeing the bones move. Like we're looking for stillness and levelness up through the top of the hindquarters and a stillness,
Yeah.
a lack of rolling through the barrel and a
Mm-hmm.
lengthening the neck. What it's really doing is it's telling us the energy is finally moving forward through the body because when
Yeah.
they sort of don't want to go forward and they shorten the neck or they're on the forehand and they're shortening the neck, the head is coming backwards. So it's like the energy is sort of the horse looks like they're going forward, but the energy is sort of going backwards. And when they
Mm.
lengthen the neck the way we've talked about, you can see the head is moving forward and away in the direction of
Yeah.
travel. And
Yeah.
that's again going all the way through the spine. He still is working on the stability through the back and the hindquarter. But just to see a change in the hind legs, what that tells you is when the pelvic bones and the SI joint finally stabilize in their relationship to a stable spine, that's what
Mm-hmm.
frees up the ball and socket hip joint. So
Yeah.
once the ball and socket hip joint isn't doing the job of stability, it instantly changes the swing of the legs.
Mm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
though he's still got too much weight on the forehand, I go, you kind of got to get the hindquarters doing a functional job before he can control his body weight. So,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like we looked at last time, he even has moments where he sort of elevates, he keeps the neck very long, he stays forward, and he just elevates the neck up closer to the level of the back. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
even a better step of balance than the whole rest of the time. And they come and go. Like we looked at last time,
Yes.
I think he had one really brilliant step by accident.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing in this session, I'm sort of seeing him play with that a little bit more. Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
nose is on the ground, and then sometimes he elevates it. And it's more to do, I think, with his balance rather than the distraction or the location of the arena that he happens to be in. He just seems to be
Mm-hmm.
playing with it a lot more, head down, head up, without losing the tempo, without losing the forward.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And he's a lot more focused in the arena than Stitch is. He seems to be in the zone, whereas Stitch is often looking out at, the world around him. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just their personality. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and if Stitch gets sort of quick or distracted, I would just throw in more circle time, the way you
Yes.
were doing
Yeah.
it before. But I'm so
Hmm.
happy you sorted out the behavior because every time I look at Pablo work, I'm like, he's just a nice horse who's doing his best. And it was hard for me to
Yeah.
imagine him bullying you, but I'm like, I could see where
Yeah.
he would have more bark than bite, I think. I don't think he would
Yes.
follow
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. And I think what I was so scared of is that I was accidentally training him to be worse and worse and worse. And then one day he might turn around and be a bit aggressive. And then I've kind of created it. And, you know, I should have
We we
put a
do
stop to
that,
it.
well, we do that inadvertently. It can go that
Mm,
direction. You're
yeah.
really kind of you're counterbalancing that by helping his body feel better. So I wasn't worried he would
Yeah.
become aggressive, but
Yeah.
like the horses are telling us they need something from us when they get snarky and aggressive.
Hmm.
What they need from us is our confidence and boundaries and us having a plan. Like they want to know we have a
Hmm.
better plan than they do. And
Yeah.
until we provide that, if we punish them, they get better at fighting.
Hmm.
And if
Yeah.
we do nothing, they escalate until we do something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you really have to get that with horses that tend to show aggression. You walk that fine line where your intention is the most important thing because they will read
Hmm.
the energy. And if you just give him a, hey, knock it off, that's not okay, he'll never be offended and he won't escalate. But
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you go to tell him that's bad, naughty, bad horse, then that's what can
Yeah.
escalate the fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're fair with horses, it's like he just wants to know where he is in your herd of two. A
Mm.
friend of mine, this old cowboy, used to say, he wants to know who's driving this tugboat. Who's
Yeah. 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 Well, up until very recently, he was.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But this is just beautiful. So I wouldn't change a thing. I would work him as often as you can. Kind of, it looks
Hmm.
like the video's a little over 20 minutes. And is that about how
Hmm.
long he can work?
Yeah, probably the last 2 weeks, we've been doing 20 minutes sessions. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, because he's just starting. I think we're at minute 21. So right about the 20-minute mark. Now do you see where he starts to look a tiny bit wobbly again? Can you see the
Yeah.
difference from
Yeah.
where he started to that?
Yeah.
And then he's keeping a rhythm, like he's giving it a really good try. But when you start to see a little bit more movement in the pelvic bones or the back, or he loses forward or something like that, I would take it as fatigue because
Mm.
he absolutely started this video on his A game.
Yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
go back to the beginning. And just after looking at his back that little bit where it was kind of shaky, we're just going to compare it to the same area of his body as you're starting off. And
Hmm.
he's very slow, but there's just not as much. He's no slower than he is by the end of the video. He starts off a little bit stiff, and then he gets more forward
Hmm.
as you go and more stable through the back and hindquarter. So there isn't that little bit of left to right sort of wiggle going through his back. It's starting to be more straightforward. And one of the
Yeah.
things you can look at, since you're long reining both horses from behind, is when you watch Pablo, what he's a little more honest about, and just because of how he arranged his dysfunction. If you kind of watch the tracks, what you'll see with Pablo once his head is out of the grass, let me move it along a little bit, is that the hind feet look like they track behind the front feet. This is not tracking up.
Yeah.
It's sort of a line. So where the
Yeah.
the front feet go, from that perspective of being behind him, what you'll see with Pablo's legs is that they don't really turn inward and outward. They're stiff, but it looks like
Yeah.
they track straight behind the front leg.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you look at Stitch, with the steps he takes, you'll see the front leg path and you'll see Stitch step just to the inside
They
of the front.
swing a bit like that.
Inside or
Yeah.
outside, probably inside of the front hoof print.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because his pelvis is moving too much.
and that
Yeah.
is the kind of the lateral instability of his legs, where his pelvis, they were both unstable. But what Pablo did was sort of protect himself by not moving. And what Stitch did was speed up, which made his movement become more manipulated by people.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are the
Yeah.
only two things horses can do if they lose pelvic engagement, is they go too fast or they don't want to move. And so Stitch was one who decided to go too fast, and
Yeah.
he just got unstable in a different way, to the point that he has a hard time. He has some lateral instability through the stifle and hock, where
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
stiffness that you're seeing, the good news is it's stiff, but it's still going through flexion and extension straight forward and back without a lot of lateral play through the joints.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And
Yeah.
you can kind of
Yeah.
watch where the hind feet
Excuse me.
track. Like
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
they should track directly behind the front leg. So the point of view is, if you see the hind leg, you shouldn't really see the front leg too easily. And if the
Yeah.
hind legs are unstable, you'll see them go into the midline farther inside than the front feet, or sometimes
Yeah.
swing out around the front feet.
Okay. That'll be easy to obviously watch. It's interesting. So after I've worked him sometimes, when he stands back in the paddock or when he's eating his dinner or whatever, his back feet are a little bit more apart. Whereas, say if I haven't worked him for a few days, sometimes his back hooves are actually touching. Like that's how close, how base narrow he stands at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is like, the more you can work him, the better, because it's a matter of, the process is finding the coordination in the nervous system, then gaining the skeletal sort of stability with a change of coordination. And it's the skeletal coordination that works the muscles and joints differently. So that's why we can rehab at a very slow walk like this, because he's changing his muscle use as you're working him. And if you're like, if you see him in between work sessions, maybe he can hold that a little bit on his own. And then if he's not working, at a certain point, he goes back to the old habit because the muscles haven't strengthened yet to support the new habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that he
Yeah.
doesn't want to, it might feel better, but it's like the musculature is going to keep pulling the skeleton back into the strongest habit until the muscle support changes.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
very much in that process.
Mm. Yeah, very exciting. What's
Hmm.
your thoughts on supplements for arthritis?
Uh, I put him on the anti-inflammatory diet, which we've talked about.
Yeah, he's on
So,
that. Yep.
and if they're having a very hard time, I put him on Equiox or Previcox.
So he's on that too. Yep. Yep.
And the only joint supplement that I've ever had really any noticeable difference with, and I even kind of quit using it, was just pure MSM,
Hmm.
which is because you can really, spend your savings account on joint supplements for
Oh, it's
horses.
so expensive. Yeah.
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 And I found after trying many expensive ones, if I really felt that a horse needed a joint supplement for a while, I just bought the pure MSM because what the
Yeah.
MSM does is it's what the body needs to produce cartilage. And so
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
just supplying the body with a little more fuel for restoring cartilage and synovial fluid.
Yeah.
But what's really working through the arthritis is the movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I've
and
got him
when
on
you
a
get,
supplement. Oh, sorry.
sorry, go
You
ahead.
go. I was just going to say I've got him on a supplement at the moment. It's got quite a lot of turmeric in it. I'm not sure if it's got MSN. I'll have to have a look, but it's I just don't know, do you? It's quite expensive, and I'm thinking, am I just kind of chucking my money away, maybe?
Um, like I think he's doing great. I
Mm,
don't usually if I like when we first looked at him, he was
mm-hmm.
unusual and extreme enough. I thought, check him for Lyme's, check him for EPM, check him for inflammation. Like those are the three things that when horses, as much trouble as he had just leading down the driveway, not wanting to go forward, I go, he was pretty extreme. Not
Yeah.
unkind and not dangerous, but just really extreme in his unwillingness to want to move. And
Mm-hmm.
the only time they can sort of do that and still look good would be inflammation, Lyme's disease, and EPM. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
three major ones. But
Yeah.
he's now on Equiox, which is better
Mm-hmm.
than a joint supplement. It's going to kind of generalize
Yes.
anti-inflammatory, make him comfortable.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were not seeing steady improvement in the work, then I would look at supplements. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, the fact that you have a couple of like green lights, you have him looking forward to his work session. You have
Yep.
him starting off fully concentrating, starting to find a rhythm, lengthening his neck, not stopping as much, not even slowing down as much. All of
Mm-hmm.
those are signs that he's healing his body with whatever
Mm-hmm.
you currently have him on.
Yep.
So
Yep. Okay.
what I would do is look at eliminating supplements.
Yep.
And if you eliminate a supplement and he has a training setback, then I would put him back on the
Yeah.
supplement.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
But you've sorted out the
I'm so
relationship.
nervous to do that.
You just take one out at a time, or a lot of
Yeah.
times what I'll do is I'll start reducing the dosage.
Mm-hmm.
And as I start reducing the dosage of a supplement, they'll kind of
Mm-hmm.
give me indicators of whether that makes a difference at all or
Yep.
makes a huge difference.
Yep.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think I think he's certainly comfortable enough that I would look at like what supplements do you have him on? Because you've got the gut one.
I've got the gut one, so digestive EQ. He's on a zinc and copper one, because evidently the hay in Western Australia we're low on zinc and copper
Hmm.
because we've got a lot of iron in our soil, evidently. And the one for the joints is called Joint Joy, and it's just a local product, and it's got a lot of turmeric in it. It smells like you're cooking a curry.
Oh yeah. No, and
Yeah, and
turmeric is
sometimes, oh, sorry,
it's good.
and a magnesium one as well. So I'm a bit of a notorious for thinking this is going to be my solution kind of person, buy all these supplements. But
Hmm.
anyway, he seems to be going good on it, so maybe I should just continue what I'm doing.
I would say the first thing I would take him off of is the magnesium, only
Mm-hmm.
because too much magnesium can start to create problems. You can get stones, bladder stones, or like a sludge in the bladder from too
Ah,
much magnesium.
okay.
So
Yeah.
especially if his urine looks cloudy at all, or he has to stop and pee a lot, I would definitely get him off the magnesium. But the magnesium to me is a very short-term targeted supplement. So if he's been on it a while,
Right.
I would get him off the magnesium. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the joint supplement, I would just maybe play with it. Like I would,
Okay.
take the dosage down and see.
Mm-hmm.
And turmeric is bioavailable, very good supplement. It sounds like that local
Mm-hmm.
one is really good for him, but if it's pricey,
Mm.
maybe you don't have to feed the recommended amount. Maybe you could
Yeah. Okay.
just,
Yeah.
do less of it. And
Yeah.
then let's see, so that's the magnesium, the joint supplement. I would leave him on the Previcox for now, while
Mm-hmm.
he's in work. And then the gut one, I would probably do the same thing as the joint one, but not
Mm-hmm.
both at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think you took him
I
off the
did.
gut one before.
Yeah, and there was he was quite reactive around his belly. The massage, or sorry, the body worker kind of commented that he seems a little bit sensitive around his belly. So yeah, I put him back on it.
So why don't you try, because the way he's moving, if he's on the Previcox, you've got enough inflammatory relief that I don't think a joint supplement is making that big of a difference as long as he's on
Hmm.
the Previcox. And then at some
Yeah.
point, when you take him off the Previcox, then you might look at the joint supplement again
Hmm.
as a way
Yeah.
to wean down off the medication. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And if he's muscle sore coming off of the magnesium, you can play with the dosage on that, but I would look at not having him on that long term. I've seen problems with horses,
Okay.
especially geldings, being on it long term.
Ah. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Um, but yeah, I think I find that when they're moving in a healthy way, and this is the health side of working on balance, is the
Hmm.
body's a closed system. So when you
Mm.
improve skeletal coordination, you're not only addressing joint function and muscle use, but you're normalizing pressure in the abdominal cavity, you're facilitating digestion, you're helping with the lymphatic system, the circulatory system. So it really has a global effect on their health. And so the more he works like this, like what I'm seeing in this video, you're
Hmm.
you're on the path to restoring his health as much as making him
Hmm.
rideable.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
not a fast process for him. So that's why
Hmm.
I would look at maybe weaning him down on the supplements. And
Mm.
if it doesn't change how he works, then he's telling you he doesn't need it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
And if you
Yep.
see like if he suddenly gets super sensitive and really defensive again about being touched, or if he loses forward, If he makes any kind of change back towards an old problem when you take him down on a supplement, then you know the
Hmm.
supplement's working. It's helping.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Okay.
at
Good
least you know
idea.
you're not wasting your money.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I
It's
find
hard,
that,
isn't it? You have to work full time to afford horses, and you don't have the time to do all the stuff with
yeah,
them.
yeah, and I've gotten more and more away from special diets and supplements because the more we work with getting the learning frame of mind and basic balance, so many things start to just, the body just starts to right itself a little bit easier and a
Mm.
little bit easier.
Yeah, okay.
And I just
Yep.
don't, I have some horses that come in with 10 supplements that have to be added. And I always look at weaning them down according to how the horse is doing in work.
Yeah. Yep.
And then if something happens, I can always throw a supplement, a digestive aid or a probiotic or something, depending on what's going on. But
Hmm.
it's just gotten crazy the amount of supplements that horses need to be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. They're good at marketing, aren't they? They get you by the heartstrings, you know?
Well, and they say it's going to fix these problems, but I go, it's like saying, um, how do I rate this? It's like saying you need better gas for your car, but what you really needed was, or
New
you need,
tires or something.
yeah,
You need new
exactly.
tires.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you have a
Yeah.
misalignment and you keep wearing out your tires and somebody's trying to sell you fuel additives. And I go, okay, well,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fuel additives might be good for my car, but it's not helping my tires straighten out.
Yeah. 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 Good analogy.
Yeah. So it's sort of targeting supplements, and I agree with everything you have him on. And I could see with the snarkiness trying the magnesium. I get that.
Mm.
But maybe that was more of just a relationship issue more than a
Mm.
pain
Actually,
issue.
why I picked the magnesium is that time when Stitch was acting a bit spooky. So,
Hmm.
and because they're all in the paddock together, if there's one's on it, they're all on it because they share each other's food.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, hopefully Stitch is doing better as well. So
yeah, he is. Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions? Like, I just love the way he starts off. I love how he goes through this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
I'm
he,
really happy with his progress.
yeah, and he's really only kind of super stiff starting out for maybe the first lap. And then he looks more and more rhythmic the longer he goes.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think he really enjoys it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, that's them telling us, thumbs up on the training. And
Yeah.
it's something that I now have come to expect. So when I see defensiveness perpetuating, I look at it from different perspectives, but I know something is wrong
Mm. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
typically with this kind of work, the horses really get into it and they feel as soon as they start to feel the benefit of improving their coordination, they're all on board and they get
Yeah. Yeah.
quiet, they get cooperative, they get pretty happy.
Yeah, yeah. His body shape's changing a bit as well, isn't it?
Hmm.
He's not so upside down with a funny looking neck.
His neck looks longer. It doesn't look too short for his body.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like his neck
And he
is,
used to get around quite like a U neck with it like quite bulgy at the front and, you know, dippy at the back.
yep, all of that goes with
Yes.
his old habit of movement. No, and the
Yeah.
the amount of horses that are being ridden and worked with their backs dropped is just
Mm,
phenomenal. It's epidemic in
yeah.
our horse world.
Really
And
sad, isn't it? Yeah.
it's yeah, because we're kind of looking in the wrong areas. We're looking at the headset and we're looking at the leg strides and we think we've got
Yeah.
it. And meanwhile, the
Yeah.
back is down, the pelvis is getting unstable, the neck is getting shorter and shorter, and the
Yeah.
horses can only handle that for so long and no more. And so
Yeah, I'm horrified at like how I used to ride. Like the focus was always on, keeping their head tucked in a little bit
mhm.
on the
Oh no,
bit, which
me. Yeah, me too. It's just the
Mhm.
way we're taught right now, and I'd love to
Yeah.
see it change. But just watching, and thank you for sharing these lesson videos on YouTube because I think watching Pablo, like with all of his antics and how little forward he had to start with, it's just beautiful to watch him
Mm.
blossom and kind of unfold.
Yeah. 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 It's very exciting.
Yeah. It
I
doesn't look like
find
much.
I've
Like you kind of have to own a horse like that to be excited about what he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I've been going around and round in circles for so many years with this horse. So I feel like this is our first little, I can kind of see a little dim light, you know? So
Yes,
it's
yes.
good. Yeah.
There is
It's
light at the
exciting.
end of the tunnel, and kudos to you for
Yeah.
hanging with him. But
Oh, you got to do it, haven't you? You
yeah,
know, you get
yeah,
a horse that's get him for a reason.
no, and I mean, I went through the same journey we all went through. I made all the same mistakes, and I still, like, I have videos of my Arabian mare. She's finally between the age of 30 and 31 starting to make a comeback. And
Wow.
I just
Wow.
go, it's never too late as long as they're still kicking. We can at
Hmm.
least like I feel like if I can just keep her comfortable in her old
Mm.
age and keep her
Yeah.
healthy,
Yep.
and she loves the time together. So it's our way of spending
Yeah, that's
time
lovely.
together is just on the long
Yeah.
reins.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
But
good age.
it's taken about 6 months to even see a visible difference of really working with
Hmm.
her as often as I can. But it's like it takes a while to start to see the changes in the body. And
Mm.
there's little hints you can see with Pablo. There's little hints of the body
Yeah.
changing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's exciting.
exactly. Yeah. It is. It is. Yes. All right. Well,
All
I better
right.
get off to work.
Okay.
And
Let
I'll
me
see
stop the
you. Yeah.
video.